Hello? I gave my sister $28,000 in 1 year, but on Thanksgiving she rolled her eyes and said, "Why are you even here?" So I walked out quietly, then 2 days later she showed up crying. 28,000. Not as a loan. Not for fun. Just to keep her life from falling apart. Rent, groceries, gas money, childcare. Her car broke down in February. I paid for the repairs. Her ex left her stranded in April. I picked her up from another town and filled her tank. She called in July, crying because her lights were about to be shut off. I wired the money before she could finish the story. And I never said a word. Not once. Not to her, not to anyone. I just helped, because she was family. So when she rolled her eyes at me on Thanksgiving and said, "Why are you even here?" something in me cracked. The room had gone dead silent. We were at my parents' house, all the usual chaos, kids yelling, the oven beeping, the dogs stealing napkins. I had shown up late, traffic had been hell, and I was still in my work clothes. I barely had enough in my account for gas, but I made it because, despite everything, I thought, maybe it would feel good to be around family again. To just sit, eat, laugh. Feel like I belonged somewhere. But she looked right at me, rolled her eyes, and dropped that line like a knife. "Why are you even here?" Not joking. Not teasing. It was pure disgust. And no one said a word? Not my mom. Not my dad. Not even my cousins, who I used to babysit when she was out partying at 19. I just sat there, stunned, blinking at my plate. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear the whispers starting around me. I looked around, hoping, just hoping, someone would speak up. No one did. So I did the only thing I could. I got up. Quietly. Pulled out my car keys. Slid my chair in. And I left. No scene. No drama. I just walked out of that house like I was a ghost. A ghost who had spent $28,000 to be invisible. 2 days later, she showed up at my apartment. Crying. Her mascara was streaked. She was wearing one of those oversized sweatshirts she always wore when she wanted to look fragile. And she didn't even knock at first, just stood there, sniffling, like that would do the trick. "Can we talk?" she said. I didn't answer. I need help. That's when I knew she still didn't get it. I let her in. Not because I wanted to, because I needed to. There's a difference. She stepped into the apartment like it was familiar, like we were just picking up after some petty sibling spat. Like she hadn't humiliated me in front of the entire family. She scanned the room, taking in the worn-out couch, the second-hand dining table, the half-finished mug of coffee on the counter. Her eyes lingered on a stack of unopened mail near the door. I could tell she was about to make a comment, maybe about how I was living. But she stopped herself. Progress, I guess. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, almost too quietly. I stayed standing. Didn't offer her a seat. She wrung her hands, looked up at me with eyes still a little red. "I didn't mean what I said." "Yes, you did," I replied. "You just didn't expect consequences." That shut her up for a second. She shifted awkwardly. "It was Thanksgiving, I was stressed and—" "Save it," I cut in. "I've heard the script. Now let's look at the receipts." I walked over to the side drawer of my desk, pulled out a plain black folder. No drama. No build-up. Just calm, cold paper. She blinked. "What is that?" "This," I said, flipping it open, "is everything. Every Venmo transfer. Every bank transaction. Screenshots of every. Can you help me out this month? Text. Notes I made after phone calls where she asked for just a little help till Friday. The total? $28,417.63. I laid it out on the table like I was handing over an invoice. She just stood there. Pale. Frozen. "You said, why are you even here?" I said slowly. "Let me tell you why I was there. Because I'd already covered your rent that month. Because I skipped lunch that week to make sure you could put gas in your car. Because every time you said you were drowning, I showed up with a life raft." Tears welled up again. But this time, I didn't flinch. You cried wolf so many times I forgot there was a cost to being the shepherd. She opened her mouth to speak. I raised my hand. I'm not done. I picked up my phone. Opened our family group chat. Typed. In the last year, I've given Amanda $28,000. Rent, groceries, gas, childcare, car repairs. Never asked for anything back. On Thanksgiving, she looked me in the eye and asked why I was even there. I left quietly. But today I'm saying it clearly. I'm not the family ATM anymore. And I hit send. My phone buzzed almost instantly. My mother typing. My cousin reacting with a shocked emoji. A silence fell between us as she watched the screen light up. Her world was tilting now, not mine. She whispered, "Why would you do that?" "Because the truth belongs to everybody now," I said. "Not just the parts you cherry-pick." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know it added up to that much." "That's the problem," I said. "You never counted. Because you thought I'd always pay." I closed the folder. Walked to the door. She started crying harder, that kind of sobbing you do when you realize someone doesn't see you the way they used to anymore. She said my name like it was supposed to fix something. But it didn't. Not this time. I opened the door. And I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam it. I just looked at her and said, "I'm choosing me now." Then I shut it behind her. After the door clicked shut behind her, I just stood there. No big breath. No tearful release. Just silence. A silence that felt earned. I went back to the kitchen, sat down, and stared at the cold coffee on the counter. It had gone bitter. Fitting. My phone was still buzzing. The family group chat was blowing up. My cousin Jess. Wait, what? My mom. Please don't air family matters like this. Uncle Steve. That's disgusting. $28,000? Are you serious? And then, of course, my dad, the king of convenient neutrality. Let's all just calm down. But I didn't reply to any of them. Not yet. I scrolled through the chat, watching people unravel everything. I'd always been the quiet one, the reliable one. The good son. Though no one ever said it out loud. Amanda was the squeaky wheel. Always breaking down, always getting the grease. Until now. Amanda hadn't messaged again. No follow-up, no denial, no apology. Just that final image, her face crumpling at the door, realizing, for the first time, that I wasn't going to catch her anymore. I half expected my mom to call. She didn't. Instead, she sent a single message. "Can we talk before this gets worse?" I turned my phone over and let the screen go dark. I wasn't angry. I wasn't vengeful. I was just done. The hardest part wasn't giving Amanda all that money. It wasn't the silence at Thanksgiving, or the eye roll, or even her tears at my door. It was realizing how long I'd let it go on. How long I'd let myself believe that sacrifice equaled love. That being the dependable one would someday earn me respect, gratitude, a seat that felt like mine at the table. It never came. Until I forced it to. That night I finally slept. No stress dreams. No imaginary late-night calls. Just silence. And when I woke up the next morning? For the first time in years, I didn't check my phone out of fear. I just let it be. The world could wait. By Monday, the silence had evolved into something else, static. Like everyone knew they should say something but didn't quite know how. I finally checked my phone again around noon. 17 unread messages. 6 missed calls. 3 voicemails. Amanda hadn't called. Not once. But my mother? She left a voicemail that started with her usual soft voice guilt and ended in passive-aggressive disappointment. Classic mom maneuver. It went something like, "I just wish you hadn't embarrassed your sister like that. Family isn't about keeping score. She's going through a lot. You've always been the strong one. That's who you are." That last part stuck with me. That's who you are. No apology. No accountability. Just a gentle reminder that I'm supposed to be the one who carries it all, quietly, invisibly, indefinitely. I didn't respond. I let the guilt hang in the air without catching it. By that afternoon, my cousin Jess texted me privately. Honestly, I had no idea. We all thought Amanda was working part-time or getting help from Kevin. You've been covering everything? I just sent her a photo. The spreadsheet. The total. She didn't reply right away. When she did, it was just 3 words. That's not okay. Later that night, a message popped up from my uncle, Mom's younger brother, the one who always seemed to see things a little clearer than the rest of them. I've watched you carry this family too long, kid. About time you set it down. I didn't realize how much I needed someone to say that. Not to excuse Amanda. Not to rationalize it. Just to say the truth out loud. I think that's when the grief hit me, not for the money, but for the years. The missed vacations. The birthday dinners I skipped because Amanda needed help with car payments. The promotions I turned down because I couldn't afford to move cities with half my income already spoken for. All those sacrifices made in silence, all those years hoping they'd notice. But they didn't. Or they did, and just expected more. It's wild what people will normalize when they're not the ones paying the cost. So that night I sat on the edge of my bed and opened a new note on my phone. Not a letter. Not a rant. Just a list. Things I'm no longer responsible for. I started with Amanda. Then my parents. Then I added their mortgage. Their guilt. Their silence. Their expectations of who I'm supposed to be. By the time I finished the list, I felt something uncoil in my chest. Freedom doesn't always show up with fireworks. Sometimes it's just a calm, clear list of what you won't carry anymore. It was the following Friday when Amanda came back. I didn't hear her car. She didn't text first. Just that same knock, soft, hesitant. Like the sound of someone hoping the wood would answer instead of me. I opened the door. She looked worse than before. No makeup this time. Hair pulled back in a lazy bun. Hoodie sleeves tugged over her hands. The confident posture she usually wore like armor? Gone. She looked like someone who'd come back to the scene of a crime and realized she'd been caught on every camera. "Can I talk to you?" she asked, her voice cracking. I didn't say yes. I just stepped aside. She walked in like she was entering a stranger's apartment. And maybe she was. The version of me she'd grown used to, quiet, dependable, financially flexible. He didn't live here anymore. She stood in the middle of my living room, looked around, and didn't sit. Just stood. I got the text," she began. "The group chat. I didn't know you were keeping track." "I wasn't," I said. "Not at first. But one day I started. Because it was either track it, or go broke." She winced, but I didn't stop. "I kept telling myself it was just until you got back on your feet. But it turns out you weren't trying to stand up. You were just leaning harder." Tears welled up again. I didn't rush to comfort her this time. "You're right," she whispered. "I messed up. I took advantage. I didn't mean to, but I did. And I'm sorry." I nodded once. Not to accept. Just to acknowledge. She took a shaky breath. "I came to ask for help again, before. But when you showed me that folder, I saw it. I saw myself the way you must have been seeing me all this time." She wiped her eyes. "You were always there. And I never said thank you? Not once." I stayed quiet. She filled the silence. I don't know how to fix this." And that's when I walked over to the same drawer and pulled out the folder again. But this time, I didn't open it. I just held it in my hands. Let the weight of it fill the room. "You don't fix this," I said. "You sit with it. You learn from it. You carry your share." She nodded, lips trembling. "Okay." Then I did the hardest thing I've done in a long time. I walked her to the door. And I opened it. She turned to me, panicked. "Wait, can I at least explain?" "I believe you're sorry," I said softly. "But I still need space. Not out of punishment. Out of peace." "But what do I do now?" she asked, voice cracking. "Figure it out," I said. "The same way I had to." She stood there, crying. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quietly broken. And I let her stay like that for a moment, because she needed to feel it. Then I stepped back inside. And I shut the door. Not out of anger. Out of self-respect. For 2 full days I heard nothing. No knocks. No texts. No family group chat explosions. Just quiet. It was strange how quickly that quiet became comforting. I thought maybe it was over. That maybe Amanda had finally understood. That maybe, just maybe, she was going to carry her own weight now. But then came the text from my mom. We need to talk. This isn't how families handle things. That line again. Family. They only seemed to remember the word when they wanted something. I didn't reply. Instead, I sat on my balcony that night with a mug of tea, the cold air curling around my neck. For once, I didn't feel like I owed anyone an explanation. Not even her. My piece wasn't loud. It didn't make a statement. But it was mine. And I wasn't trading it back, not for guilt, not for obligation, not for anything. Sunday morning, I woke up to a barrage of notifications. The family group chat had erupted again. It started with Amanda. I never meant to hurt anyone. I messed up. I know that now. Then my mom, swooping in with damage control. We all make mistakes. Let's not destroy relationships over money. And then my uncle, bless him, fired back. It's not about money. It's about respect. You all watched him break his back for years. And then let Amanda humiliate him on Thanksgiving. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. I sat up in bed, rereading that last message twice. It felt like someone had finally turned on the lights in a room I'd been standing alone in for years. Others chimed in, cousins, a couple aunts. Some neutral. Some shocked. A few even apologizing for never realizing how much I'd carried. But my dad? Silent. Typical. And Amanda, she didn't respond after that. Not a single word. It was probably the first time in her life she didn't have the last say. I didn't reply either. I wasn't looking to fight. The truth was already doing the work for me. By Monday, I started noticing something strange, not in them, but in me. For the first time in years, I wasn't checking my bank account like I was defusing a bomb. No anxiety, no math gymnastics. Just a quiet awareness that my next paycheck was mine. I wasn't fielding late night. Can you spot me $100 until Friday? Texts. I wasn't waiting for someone to drop the next financial crisis in my lap. And when my phone buzzed, it wasn't a family emergency. It was a friend inviting me out, or a coworker sending a meme. The absence of need was jarring. Peace, it turns out, is awkward at first. That week, I walked past the coffee shop I used to avoid, one of those cozy ones I never felt like I could afford to enjoy. But I walked in. Got myself something I used to consider a luxury, a drink with whipped cream, a seat by the window, and time I didn't owe to anyone else. I sat there, watching people walk by, and I realized something. I had spent years living like a backup generator, only called on when things fell apart. Quiet. Out of the way. Necessary, but never appreciated until the power failed. No one asks the generator how it's holding up. No one thanks it when the lights come back on. They just go back to what they were doing, until the next outage. That was me. And I let them make me that way. Not anymore. That night, I pulled out the notebook I used to keep buried in my nightstand. The one where I used to jot down things I wanted to do. Someday. It had dust on it. The pages were stiff. The dreams inside were small, cautious, written by someone who didn't believe they deserved more than survival. But I flipped to a clean page. And I wrote at the top in bold ink, "Now." Because this wasn't about punishing Amanda anymore. This was about reclaiming the space I gave away for free. About rewriting the definition of family to include me. It was almost 2 weeks before I heard from Amanda again. No texts, no calls, just a knock at the door one rainy Thursday evening. I knew it was her before I even looked through the peephole. Something about the way the knock hesitated between each tap. Still unsure if she was welcome. I opened it slowly. She looked different. Not put together like usual. No oversized hoodie performance, no mascara tears. Just Amanda, in jeans and a soaked coat, hair tied back, eyes raw. Tired in a way I hadn't seen before, like she'd finally run out of stories to tell herself. "Can I come in?" she asked, barely above a whisper. I stepped aside. She walked in and stood in the middle of the living room, the same place she stood when I gave her the folder. This time, she wasn't crying. She wasn't defensive. She was just quiet. "I'm not here to ask for anything," she said. I wanted to say something." I leaned against the wall. Said nothing. She exhaled, her voice thin. "You know, I kept thinking you were being dramatic. That maybe you were just tired or mad or overreacting. But then I started thinking about what would happen if you hadn't picked up that phone last year. Or the year before. Or the year before that." She looked down. "I realized I never actually considered what you might have had to give up for me to get by." I stayed silent. Let her sit in it. She looked around the room like she was seeing it for the first time. The worn carpet. The dent in the wall from where I dropped my tool set. The second-hand furniture that hadn't changed in 5 years. "I used your sacrifices to build my comfort," she said. "And I never said thank you?" I nodded slowly. "You didn't. And I probably don't deserve to now. But I needed to come here and say it anyway." There it was. No performance. No manipulation. Just a long overdue truth. She looked at me then. "I lost your trust, didn't I?" "Yes," I said. "And I don't know if I'll ever get it back," she said. I shrugged. "That's not something you ask for. That's something you earn." She nodded. "I understand." A pause hung between us. This time, there was no expectation. No plea. No bargaining chip. Just quiet accountability. "I should go," she said softly. I opened the door. She stepped out into the rain without an umbrella, without one last look. No hugs. No big movie moment. Just steps into the gray evening. But just before she walked down the stairs, she turned and said, "Thank you? For everything. Even if I didn't say it before." Then she was gone. And I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel smug. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I just felt free. I closed the door behind her. Not out of resentment. Out of finality. Out of the knowledge that the person who always picked everyone else up had finally chosen to stand for himself. It's been quiet since then. Not the uncomfortable silence that used to follow every family dinner or favor. Not the silence that comes with being overlooked. This one feels earned. Chosen. Amanda hasn't reached out again. My parents tried once or twice, but I didn't answer. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done with being everyone's lifeline while they stand on the shore. These days I wake up without dread in my chest. My paycheck covers my needs. My time is mine. And the peace? It doesn't ask me for anything. It just stays. Bye-bye.